Ah, shit. Alright, so this is one of those stages that has, like, the middle thing that, well, it has those balls that hit you and do damage if they hit you. If the balls touch you, it hurts. The big ones. If the big balls touch you, that is. Oh, they got, like, one of those, like, American Gladiators type, Q-tips. The big Q-tips there. I was, like, talking about this, too, on, that little, like, Patreon rant series that I do, where I was talking about beat-em-ups this past week. And I was kind of comparing River City Girls and Streets of Rage 4. I feel like River City Girls, it's like one of like the best first playthroughs of a game, but then this one, I feel like Streets of Rage 4, they did such a good job of having it have such great replay value. Especially now that the survival mode to me like seems like something to come back to a bunch. But yeah, this, and on top of this, you had like the rankings on each of the stages. So every stage, there's kind of a thing where you want to get to an S ranking. I was very excited to play as Estelle, just because it's you know, Estelle is you go to my Instagram Explore feed, and based on all my recommendations, it's mostly just like fucking muscle girl. So I'm like, oh, I definitely want to play as Estelle when she's in the game. But you know, so far I don't like how she plays as much as I like Shiva. So after the girls in River City Girls, they're introducing this one Famicom game, Super Famicom game. Later on, there's two different girls that are all of a sudden the girlfriends for Ricky and Kunio in that series. And then, those girls, they appear in River City Girls, but as kind of these antagonists and secret bosses. I didn't think I was like on the level of that. I felt like I was above that. But the game kind of hints at that, where, I mean, I don't even want to ruin the twist ending for you, but, all that shit gets taken into account. Something I was talking about, actually, if you guys remember Haunting starring Poltergeist. I was thinking about that. Apparently there was a PlayStation game that was kind of a, spiritual successor to Haunting starring Poltergeist. From what I saw, like, I wasn't super impressed with it. But, Haunting starring Poltergeist, I had a few gameplay videos of it really early on in the channel. Haunting starring Poltergeist, if you don't know those games, is the series where you're killed by a defective skateboard that your uncle's company made. And then you get your revenge by haunting his family. And you gotta scare them out of all their big mansions. And it's actually, it can get very gory for a Genesis game. But I always thought I was always surprised if there weren't more games like that. It was such a interesting concept, and then they just didn't seem to like have like a lot of games like that ever. But I'm surprised there is never, at least to my knowledge, any project like that. I feel like there's, especially a lot of times you have those early, Kino Corner. Funny thing that you say that, Solo is a great first date, because I had that happen once. The first time I watched Solo, I was just like, I was hanging out with this girl. I was like, yo, this crazy ass movie I heard about. Let's watch Solo. And I mean, she was like that girl was like into like weird art. For some reason, it kept on making me spam the back attack. Was into like watching like weird and fucked up movies. But at the same time, even if you are, it's not exactly something you want to watch on a date of any sort, no matter who you're watching it with. Lesson learned, I guess. Because like it was like the kind of thing where like Cannibal Holocaust would be an acceptable movie to watch in this situation, but Solo never. That's when you don't get it, when you fucking fuck yourself up on their stupid shield. But he just died because his feet got poisoned. That reminds me, I gotta get working on my fucking Wiki Feet video. I'm not sure what angle exactly I want to take with it, if it's gonna be like the history of Wiki Feet or whatnot, or something I've been wanting to do more of is to kind of just go into various sorts of topics that are like buried within wikis. One that I noticed, there's something strange about it structurally. For some reason, Goatse appears to have two different talk pages on Wikipedia. I'm not sure exactly how I wound up on one and not the other. It's probably like something like weird shit with disambiguation pages or something like that. But on one of these Goatse talk pages on Wikipedia, there's a massive debate over whether or not the Goatse image should be included. And I feel like that, at the very least, it might be good enough for like a short or something. Yeah, I think at some point the Goatse image was on the Goatse Wikipedia entry, and there's a whole shit show about people arguing which way it should be. But then something else that's of interest regarding going through wikis. So, on WikiFeet, I don't even remember how I got caught up in this. I think someone had posted about it on Twitter. But there was a whole debate on WikiFeet on the Casey Anthony page about whether or not she's famous enough to merit having her own WikiFeet entry. So I guess on some level, even WikiFeet has standards. And I think what made it even more of a controversy, I guess Casey Anthony had like highly rated feet. Yeah, Casey, I might be wrong on this, but I remember when I was looking at the Casey Anthony video, when I was looking at the Casey Anthony entry, that she had highly rated feet on WikiFeet, and that is why there is so much, part of why there is so much of a debate over whether or not she belongs on there. Casey Anthony is one of the, for the Zoomers who don't know Kino Corner, for the Zoomers who don't know, Casey Anthony was famous for, I believe, killing her kids and having a big trial. But then also, like, people thought she was hot, so like that added, like, much like Jodi Arias, people thought she was hot, so that, like, that add a little bit of tension, because it's like, you know, sometimes a woman kills children, and she just looks good enough that you're like, alright, yeah, let her kill kids, who cares? Not me, but people. So back in the day, what I used to want to do is, like, make, like, a Streets of Rage movie, but have it be super violent like Rikio, and in my head, it always had a freestyle soundtrack. One of my recent videos, I forget which one it is now at that point, I come up on, okay, this is kind of a shit show over here. But I come across an article on the Silent Hill wiki about toilets. The article is just about notable toilets in the Silent Hill series, which made me think how many, in the Silent Hill wiki specifically, but then also just fandom wikis in general probably have a ton of those types of fucking hyper-specific, kind of pointless fucking entries. You can make a listicle about video game bathrooms. I mean, that's apparently, I haven't looked further into it since I did that video, but I mean, if there's a Silent Hill wiki article that's just about toilets, I imagine there's many such articles on that wiki. Let's take Stronger Ally. Oh, they gave us the whip broad. Oh, I threw my, in the excitement of getting the big titty ally, I fucking threw my sword away. RE1 for DS was your introduction. Oh shit. That means the first version you heard was, so Resident Evil for DS had all these weird little things. Because, you know, it's a DS game, so it's Nintendo, so you gotta do all the gimmicks. You gotta do all the touchscreen gimmicks. Nintendo loves their fucking gimmicks. So, they added stuff where it was extra puzzles that were very clearly just there to get used to that touchscreen, were not in the original game, and served no purpose other than to be like, oh, look, it's a DS game that has a touchscreen. But then, sometimes, there would be dialogue bits that were necessary for them. The one that sticks out in my mind is Richard. And I remember, like, Richard is dying of the poison, and then all of a sudden, he's like, oh, there are terrible demons in this house. Ow! Like, you know, as he usually would do. And then all of a sudden, a very different, clearly Japanese, trying to sound American voice actor tells you about the clock puzzle, and he's like, he'll be like, oh, there are terrible demons in this house. Ouch. And then it's like, turn the dial on the clock to 10:25. In the middle of Richard giving his dying speech, and then he dies in that version of it. Something that I was thinking, I had it suggested to me recently, and one of my very early videos was about the Resident Evil 2 the Resident Evil DualShock soundtrack that was apparently done by a deaf composer. And what I didn't know at the time was that the deaf composer, I don't think anybody knew at the time, I think this was before he got exposed. The deaf composer, the world-renowned deaf composer for Resident Evil DualShock, was exposed to not really be deaf. That might be a video to do in like a future video. You know what? Now that I think about it, it was almost more like a Chinese, even though it was definitely a Japanese guy doing it, the accent almost sounded like more like a Chinese accent. But yeah, it's the full story of the fake deaf composer is definitely one I would like to revisit at some point. I remember that one was kind of piggybacking off of a video I had done earlier about how the most annoying video game song, it's shit, I forget which Mega Man it was at this point, but it was one of the Super NES Mega Man games. It might have been Mega Man 8. And it's just this repeating fucking song that's, it has one measure of music to it, the item shop, and it's like that's the end of the song, and it just repeats over and over again until you're done with the item shop. And so maybe you want to customize Mega Man, and it's gonna take a long time for you to select what you're doing to him. And then it's just I have those leaning stools and it like tipped over. That's just over and over again. I had selected that as the most annoying video game song of all time. But then, and then I was reminded of that soundtrack with the little sneezer farting fucking sound for the fucking. If they do a live action Battletoads, it's first off, you can't make a movie like that and want it to be good. Battletoads, if you're good, if you want to make a live action Battletoads movie, it's got to be a live action Battletoads movie, not a CG Battletoads movie. I don't want to see no fucking buns ass fucking CG Battletoads movie, man. It's got to be dumbass fucking costumes like the Ninja Turtles movies from back in the day. You know, actually looking at the stage, you know what was an underappreciated game? Bart versus the Juggernauts for Game Boy. If you look up anyone talking about that game now, they're going to talk about how bad it is. But I played that game a lot. I thought it was dope. I mean, you know what it is? There's a lot of games that are like, they're not good games, but I played them a lot because I had them, and I grew to like them. Bart vs. the Juggernauts is probably one of those games where it's not really a good game, but I had it, and I was like, yeah, this is pretty cool. It's also one of the only games where I managed to come up with my own Game Genie code. Like, I would just put in random shit in Game Genies and try to fucking come up with something. But yeah, there's like a basketball checkerboard stage that electrocutes you, and you have to make your way across the thing and dunk the basketball. But somehow I randomly put in a bunch of shit, and it gave me this Game Genie code where you could fucking it would do this thing where when you got to the basketball hoop, if you just kept on tapping the button to dunk the basketball, you would just keep on dunking it and getting more points in. I don't even know how I figured out that the code worked like that. I thought maybe it always worked and I just like happened to put the code in, but that only ever worked when I put that random bullshit Game Genie code that I came up with in. I honestly, like, I might do a Mercenary stream too. Like, the Mercenaries in Resident Evil 8, it's not as good as the usual Mercenaries, but it's fun. I was playing it a lot on my own when I was kind of like, I don't really feel up to streaming, but I would like to play it. I guess I just got the kind of brain where if you have a repetitive game like this, and you have rankings you can unlock, then I have to sit there and try to get the rankings. Even if there's not... I mean, you do get... There are unlockables for Resident Evil. Like, you get, you can get, like, this lightsaber type thing that you can unlock, which is probably pretty cool to play through the actual game with. Any thoughts on Space Jam? I mean, I have no desire to watch that movie. People have very strong opinions on it one way or the other, but, like, I don't know, it's a children's movie. I don't watch children's movies.